This is Supconnect Live, and we're going to be interviewing Maddi Leblanc, and we're going live right now. Hello, stand-up paddle community. Kristin Thomas here on behalf of Supconnect, and a thank you to Supconnect. We are doing a live interview as we do every Thursday. Super excited today to have Maddi Leblanc from Niagara, Ontario, Canada. So she's on East Coast time. I know she just got off work this afternoon to do this, so we're really happy to have her here. So many things this young lady has already done. She's a SUP racer, an event producer. She is a speaker and an educator on a couple of different levels. So I'm very excited to have all of you here listening. Just a quick reminder, again, these are weekly, Supconnect Live. We also have a Facebook group called Supconnect Live Discussions. We would love you to join us. We try to, because this is live in Instagram format, we can share pictures there, links about things that we talked about. You'll want to be able to follow Maddie and know about all that she's doing. One of the things she does, I just going to give you a little challenge. She surfs, but it's not on the ocean and it's not behind a boat. So hold that thought and let's add that to the different things that we're going to talk about in just a minute. So Maddie, excited to have you. Here she is, and I'm going to invite on Supconnect Live's Thursday afternoon interview. Welcome wherever you are. There she is.
Hello.
Hello. Can you hear me fine?
I can. Can you hear me?
Fantastic. Yeah. Not a flow. Hey, somebody's from Spain. I love it when we get somebody off the continent. Just checked in. Well, fantastic to have you here. Hope you had a good day in Canada. It's kind of a big week for both of our countries. So happy belated Canada Day. And then we are, of course, are celebrating 4th of July here in the US. I was going to wear red since it's a mutual color of both countries, but didn't have that with me. Although I am traveling right now. If I knew how to turn it around, I'd show you the amazing view of my sister's house in Montana, where I am right now. You are well known for doing a lot in you've actually been stand-up paddling for a long time in stand-up paddle years, but you're not very old yourself. May I ask how old you are?
That's right. I'm 23 years old.
That's fantastic. Well, it's so exciting all that you've done. I think I read that you started in 2010, which is around when I got started too. So we're both pretty early on the scene, especially for Canada, I think. I'm kind of in a hub area in Southern California. So what first got you? What's your early SUP story? And were you involved in water activity before that, or was stand-up paddling the first thing on the water?
Yes, stand-up paddleboarding, luckily enough, was for me the very first thing that I ever did in relation to water. I'm from Welland, Ontario, here in Canada, so we're located in the heart of the Niagara region, and we actually have a man-made canal that runs through the middle of our town, but I had never taken advantage of it. I just kind of always knew it was there, but never went swimming in it, never.
Well, yeah, but you were barely a teenager, right? You were 12 or 13 when you first got started? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So, it was actually just, I feel like a chance of fate that this happened. But my family and I, we were paddleboarding up north in Lake Ontario, or no, sorry, Lake Huron. And yeah, we saw these two guys out there, and I couldn't believe what they were standing on. I was so shocked and so fascinated by these two boards, and they were, I don't know if you remember them, but they were these giant old Nash sup boards. They were yellow, and as a kid, I thought they were like these bananas. Like I was attracted to them, and just was like, "What is that?" So when they came in from their paddle, we asked them. My family and I approached them, and we said, "What is that?" And they said, "These are stand-up paddle boards. Would you like to try?" And from that day on, my life was forever changed.
Wow. So did the whole family got into it? It sounded like, you had athletic family and they tried it, or was it definitely more your passion?
It definitely, a little bit of both. Like it was very
Hmm.
much my passion. Like when I stepped off that board, I looked at my mom and dad and I said, "We are getting one of these." Like there was no doubt about it.
Uh-huh.
But my parents definitely were very athletic growing up. So I think they just knew like, okay, this is something that we really want to support our daughter with and help her with this endeavor.
Yeah. Well, you've done a lot of things that we're going to talk about, but kind of what did you get into first? Because I know you've been an instructor, both teaching stand-up paddleboarding. You're a WPA Level 1, but you've also taught a neat program that came out of Australia called SUP Kids too. Did that instructing come first, or did racing come first?
Racing actually
Mm,
came, and because of racing, that's how I was able to find Sup Kids, or actually more so Sup Kids found me. I didn't even know
yeah.
it was a thing. um, but yeah, I guess to take it like even a little bit further back, it wasn't until I started a fundraiser in 2014 that caught the attention of sponsors in my area. So people who had sup shops around Niagara, which I didn't even know was a thing again too. Like people had businesses supporting stand-up paddleboarding even in my own hometown. And so through that event, that's when they introduced me to racing, and then
Mhm.
racing introduced me to even more sponsors. And then one of my sponsors, called Paddle Niagara, he came up to me one summer, and like the most chill way anybody could ever offer you a job. We were just paddling out on the water, and his name's Timbala, and he looks at me and he's like, "So Maddie, I want to bring like a kids camp to Canada next summer. Like, do you want to teach it?" And I was like, "Sure. Like, I like kids. I like paddling. Like, why not?" Yeah, and then we met up in the winter, and he had just plopped the Sup Kids curriculum education book right in front of me and said, "Maddie, okay, learn this by the time summer comes, and it's all yours." And
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a really neat curriculum. I know it's been a little bit more challenging. I don't know if it's true in Canada, but US, we just don't have the same system that Australia has of everybody belonging to a club or being, the kid camp system isn't really connected in the US. So there wasn't like this like clear place to put it. So they really were having to look for. So I don't know if Canada has more of a cohesive program in youth sport or water sports.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very interesting point. I would love to like dive into that a little more for the US, because I know we have over 23 Sup Kids schools around the world. And so I think, yeah, there's only like two, I think, in the United States, and we have three in Canada, which for me actually is, I think that's quite shocking because our environment is so different and it's very unique versus a lot
Hmm.
of other countries who do have more, let's say, ocean access. We
Hmm.
don't have a lot of that.
Or
Whereas
year-round access, which
that's
your
right.
water changes form and freezes, I assume. Not the big lakes, but a lot of it.
It does. Yeah, it does. Like we had a very warm winter this year, so none of our Great Lakes really froze over, but we have had years where Lake Erie especially, it's so shallow, and yeah, it freezes. So yeah, as long as the water's open, we're paddling.
Yeah. But a really neat program that introduces kids through SUP to all these different environmental aspects. And also, I think that's super fun. But let's back up. That fundraiser that you started when you were a teenager is really special and meaningful. And that's just so neat to see how it's grown. So sadly, it was in memory of two, I think a neighbor and a friend that were lost to cancer. But God bless this community. They're just always out there, I think doing great things. And we've already mentioned that you've been involved with environmental education, but also doing fundraisers for. So explain your fundraiser a little bit that has grown.
Yes, yes. So on board, my family and I, we founded it in 2014. But it actually happened, like you said, because we lost two friends of mine back in 2011, and they were both in the same year. So to lose two really big community members here in Welland was very, very heartbreaking, and not just for myself and my family, but for our whole community. Their names were
Mm-hmm.
Julie Turner. She was my high school classmate, and she was 15 when she passed away due to
Mm.
glioblastoma. So that's a very aggressive form of a brain tumor. And then Lynn Lambert was my next door neighbor, and she was also a local high school teacher here as well. And she passed away at 37 due to a
Mm.
form of skin cancer. And so, yeah, like to lose two people that, again, meant so much to our community, really left a big hole in not only my heart, but everybody's. And so in 2012, I really just kind of hit this wall. Like I just didn't know what to do with myself. I was very sad, which a lot of people don't believe because they say, Maddie, you're too bubbly.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how is that even possible?
Happens.
But yeah, it really was like to lose two people was
Hmm.
horrific. And so I think stand-up paddleboarding couldn't have come at a more perfect time, because later that year, so in 2012, my parents surprised me with the stand-up paddleboard for Christmas, and I took it out on the water in spring of 2013. And that very first time I took it out, I just looked down at what I was standing on, and I thought, why not create a fundraiser out of what I'm standing on? And I definitely didn't
Wonderful.
know anybody at the time. So doing my research, I just was like blown away by other paddling communities and discovering the other people that exist around the world who do the sport. And so that really gave me the encouragement to kind of move forward with the idea and create the fundraiser in 2014. So yeah,
Fantastic. Yeah. So it's called On Board, and
that's
it's supports brain cancer research. Is that correct?
that is
Or yeah,
yes.
cancer research. Really neat. Wonderful. Well, let's get back to racing, and that was really neat. I already heard a little story about getting started and working at Paddle Niagara. Um, you are busy and sponsored, and you've had some amazing successes in the last few years. You got to go to ISA Worlds in China.
That's right.
Fantastic, representing Canada. Was that a pretty big highlight, I would guess?
Oh,
Some great memories?
yeah, for sure. China was unbelievable. And if you told me back in 2013 when I first got on that paddleboard that, hey, Maddie, you'd be representing your country like not even 5 years later, I don't think I would have believed you.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, no, you're lying to me. But yeah, it was just again another product of fate and timing. And I wasn't even supposed to go. I hadn't gone to our CSA SUP Canada Nationals that year, so I didn't go to the actual race that qualified to
Qualified, yeah.
be on the team. And so I was just sitting in my dorm room at school. I was writing my thesis. I was so upset. I was like, man, like I hate that I missed this race, but for me it was the other side of the country, so it was very hard to get to, and financially too, it just wasn't um,
Mm-hmm.
accessible for me. I couldn't get there. And as I was sitting writing my thesis, I get a call from my friend Ariel Omral, who was also
Mm-hmm.
with me, and
Yeah.
she said, "Hey Maddie, like a spot opened up on the team. Would you like to come?" And at first, I actually said no because I started working at Waterloo, and I was doing my undergraduate thesis there too. So I was finishing up my degree, and I just thought, man, you know what? This is really bad timing. Like I don't have time
Mm-hmm.
to do this competition. And again, the money, right? Because to fly to China, like, oof, that's that's expensive, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, she ended up calling me back a month later. So now it was October of 2018, and she said, Maddie, we still have the spot. We got to get you to come, and another team member will pay for your flight to China. And so then
Wow.
okay, done. I said,
Meant
this
to
is,
be. Yeah.
yeah. So that's
Well,
how
I'm
it got.
glad you made it. What an amazing life experience for you. And but it is very impressive that you're able to race. You've started these different things. You're working, you're going to school, you're working on your master's thesis now. Very impressive. As Paddle Niagara says, so proud. Can you see that at the bottom of the screen? That's so
He's
cool.
my boss.
Ah, I love it. Oh, who you were talking about earlier?
That's
Is
right.
that, yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah. So you did, I know you've won at least one Canadian championship at some level. Was that earlier or later than the ISAs?
That was earlier that same
Mhm.
summer. So I think, yeah, that would have been August of 2018. And yeah, I won the elite overall women's female title with the Ontario SUP series. So that's our kind of local area, which to me was absolutely incredible because at that point I had only been racing for 3 years. So to kind of get to the top only after 3 years of racing, like any SUP
Hmm.
racer, as yourself would know, like that's not a lot of time to develop your skills and assets. So I couldn't believe it. I was blown away. And then a month after that, I also took the yellow jersey at the Toronto Mammoth race, which is a huge race around all of the Toronto Islands, and that
Oh,
was
wow.
that was insane. I wasn't expecting
Oh,
that at all. So
oh, that sounds not only impressive but beautiful. I
oh,
love that idea around islands in Toronto. Yeah, paddling in new places is always so amazing. Um, we have a few questions for you. One thing is about equipment. So, based on you do a lot of different things, but your racing specialty. What equipment do you have, and why do you choose it? What do you
yeah.
use?
Oh, that's a great question. I love this question. I I am
I
semi-sponsored
know you love
by
your board. You get to tell us about it.
it's my baby. I'm not gonna lie. But yes, so I am semi-sponsored by Starboard SUP North America. So I do have a Starboard 14-foot by 23 and a half All-Star. So that is definitely like my go-to race board. And I actually used to start off with quick blade paddles. I had the V Drive for the first 4 years of my paddling career, and then I snapped it. I snapped the blade in at the Toronto Mammoth race last year. And I couldn't believe that I broke that paddle. I loved that paddle.
You're
But
that
yeah.
strong.
That's right. But yeah, so then after I broke that paddle, Starboard, they right away were like right up to bat. They said, "We're giving you a paddle. Like you're taking the Lima Pro." I think it's a 77 square inch blade, and so it was a little bit smaller than my quick blade, but I am in love with it now. So I very much, yeah, I've been all converted to Starboard. So they give me great equipment. I love it.
Very fun. So how any kind of tips about things? Let's start with what to avoid in getting started in well, you teach and race, but let's talk about racing more. So
Yeah.
what if since you're young and you started young, I don't know if you raced a lot as a junior. I don't know if they have those categories again, or a young sport, or if you went right into just women's categories, but any things now, if you could look back now, what would you avoid doing or
What
in
would I
getting started racing?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. I think really my passion for the sport is what drove me to participate in it. And I think if other people have that passion, I think also like taking that energy and applying it to other things like researching stand-up paddleboarding as well, because I think for me when I look back at my journey, I just like dove into the deep end of the pool. Like I just would show up at races and say, okay, like who's got a board for me? Because I didn't have like a specific race board at the time. My very first board was an all around. I think it was like a Jimmy Sticks, like 10-6 board. So I knew it was a board I couldn't race on. But I also I wish I went back and bought my own race board and bought equipment that I was very comfortable with instead of just kind of bringing my body to a race and being like, okay, like who's got a board for me? Like I think one of my first races too, I was on an inflatable, believe it or not, which I would definitely not do now unless it was like the Starboard airline, because inflatables have come a long way. But yeah, I think just doing a little bit more research and getting connected with like people who do have a lot of experience, like racers who are already kind of knowing what they're doing and can
Yeah.
recommend you like the proper equipment to be on, because I think it'll make it a lot more fun too.
Yeah. And even though it's been a decade that you've been stand-up paddleboarding, it's evolved a lot. But you do have some great resources. Ontario has some amazing paddlers, male and female. It's kind of neat. I think of Canada having a strong tradition. You started very young, as you said, stand-up paddling the first, but in the whole C1, K1, you have quite a few who come from that background. Former Olympians, I think, don't we have a handful from Ontario, maybe? That
we
were Olympians once?
Yeah, we definitely do. So actually a lot of them are from Oakville, Ontario, which is just about a couple hours down the road
Oh,
from
okay.
Welland. Yeah, so Larry Kane is there, Derek Schroeder, Tommy Budai, he's from there as well. And yeah, great paddlers. And I love how they are great examples of people who came from one sport. that was on the water and
Mm-hmm.
translated it to stand-up paddling. And they're killing it. Like they are crushing it on the race team. They're
Yeah.
strong.
And
Yeah.
it's neat how studied they are and all. I've learned a lot from all of them um, over the years too. Um, it is amazing. Another thing that I admire about you is that at 23 and having done this for a decade, that you made it through your teenage years. Being a parent of grown children, sometimes it's hard to balance everything in the teenage years. And so again, kudos to you that you're still doing well as a student, that you're working, that you're racing, that you've started events and you're instructing. That's just wonderful. And I'm glad you have so much enthusiasm and passion for the sport. Hold on to that. Keep it up. We need it. Of places you've traveled, I know Canada's a beautiful country. Do you have some favorites inside or outside of Canada?
Ooh, inside or outside? Well, I think inside of Canada, definitely I love the Great Lakes. Like I know they're my home, but the Great Lakes are just absolutely stunning places, and each and every single one of them are unique in their own way. So I love the Great Lakes, and when I do get to the ocean, I love Sydney, BC. It's a very small, quiet fisheries town, and that's
Hmm.
where our nationals are, and I was able to get there last year, so I got to experience the West Coast, and
Is that
that is,
near Tofino?
that's right. So it's on the same island.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Oh, I was so
I haven't
excited.
been there, but I've heard great things about that place.
It is the best location in Canada to get surf. Like ocean, it is the best spot. So I highly recommend you got to get to Tofino for sure. Yeah.
And since we're talking surfing, did you guys guess where she surfs? That's not an ocean and it's not behind a boat. She just mentioned it. Anybody type it in? The Great Lakes. And if you don't know about Great Lakes surfing, as you said, Maddie, you have to Google it because people surf the Great Lakes. I mean, of course, it requires the right conditions, but it's amazing. Those are real waves, and that's real surfing. And again, a lot of times I've seen that like hoods on, freezing, admirable to surf the Great Lakes when it's really cold,
That's
or
right.
anybody who surfs in cold. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Um,
unfortunate that's the only season we get to to go out in, but it's fun. It's worth it.
Yeah. Well, stand-up paddling has so many great aspects to it, but do you have a favorite part of stand-up paddling if you're going to try to choose just one?
Yeah, I think what you mentioned earlier, I think it's truly the community. Like
Mm.
growing up, I played so many sports. I was in very highly competitive soccer. I for 13 years, and I have never experienced a community like the stand-up paddleboarding one. And I'll never forget my very first race. My mom came with me. Actually, we drove to Barrie, which is just north of the Niagara region, and we show up on the beach, and everybody just like body type and enthusiasm, like they just matched my family and and we were looking at each other, and my mom goes, "These are our people," and I was like, yes. Like absolutely, I really believe that people who get to spend time on, in, or near the water just have something special about them. I don't know what it is yet. I haven't
Mhm.
put a finger on it, but
Yeah.
I think
We always wonder
yeah,
the chicken and the egg thing. Are people this wonderful because of stand-up paddling, or were they already wonderful people who were attracted to stand-up paddling? But I'm so with you about the fantastic community that we have. So you told us some things about racing and getting started. How about just getting started? Because to build our racing community, we have to just keep bringing people into stand-up paddling, which of course we want to do because we love it and want to share it. But any hints or tips about getting started just in general in stand-up paddling?
yes, I definitely think in stand-up paddling, you got to look at your local area, like really kind of get to know who's around you, and do what I did, like maybe type in sup shop Niagara or wherever you are, and most likely now, even if it's a surf shop, they should know a little bit about stand-up paddleboarding and have resources to direct you in. And yeah, essentially that's how I got into it. I just found one in Niagara, and then they had me about the Ontario SUP series. So I honestly think if I found that shop, I wouldn't have found, just using as many resources as you can.
And there are, I mean, those are only growing. There's more and more, but much more to be done in stand-up paddling, which I think is really exciting that we're a new and young sport and are still growing. Oh, I hope this is coming in. It sounds like you're freezing up a little bit, or I'm freezing up. I'm not sure which one, but hopefully Instagram's not going to try to cut us off. But your picture that you're frozen in, you're smiling. Hopefully mine is if I'm frozen too. Couple other questions that came up. Are there things you'd still like to do? Not sure if you can hear me right now. In paddling? Well, I'm not sure which one of us just froze. Well, sorry guys, we lost Maddie, but we had a great interview. It was great to talk with her. Maddie from Canada, only 23 years old. Started at 10, love that her whole family started it. That's really neat. Thanks again for tuning in. We hope you will come back every Thursday. We're talking to different people in the stand-up paddle community. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Supconnect Live discussions. And I'll post some follow-up to this and some pictures of Maddie and how to get a hold of her. Take care, everyone. Thank you.